So, 5 more leaked details for the new Leagues of Votann today. We've got the names of 5 of their specific leagues, medics in their squads, and perhaps most excitingly of all, a new confirmed new unit called a Hekaton Land Fortress. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're talking yet more juicy details for Games Workshop's new faction of space dwarves, the Leagues of Votann. A couple of days back we had a seriously major rules drop for them, a whole bunch of stratagems and data cards revealed, and today we're doing a bit of a roundup of the things that I missed, including 4 rather fun new details as to how the faction will work. Before we get into the most interesting stuff though, I will just say that there's another picture of this data card box out there in the wild. Not really too much more interesting on this guy, other than that he appears to be another Exo Armored Type 1 in red power armor this time. Maybe he might be one of the other sub-factions, and again he appears to have some sort of energy weapon type thing in his left hand. In the last video I was wondering whether it might be Einhir that's the name for the Exo Armored squats. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Perhaps the single biggest news from this whole leak though, is that we've finally got confirmation on one Votann vehicle. And for all of you people hoping and praying out there for something similar to a land train, it does appear that they might well be getting it. This stratagem called Bastion Running references something called a Hekaton Land Fortress, which to be honest the name implies a lot. It certainly sounds similar to the land trains, and in the flavour text for the stratagem it basically confirms that it has power systems and crew and can move about, so it isn't just an immobile fortification or anything like that. Supposedly the stratagem represents a damaged Hekaton land fortress being temporarily rigged for Bastion running by its crew, fortifying its systems with a short-lived power surge, and allowing it to smash and blast its way out of even the most perilous of situations. In-game this appears to manifest itself in a 1 command point stratagem to fights on full profile, which also means that we know this thing has a vehicle degradation table, and at least just from the 1 command point cost it might kind of imply that the vehicle isn't actually as massive as something like an Imperial Knight, which costs 2 command points for the same deal. In any case, I think it's very cool indeed that the Leagues of Votann will be getting a new unit like this, something that sounds truly quite massive. I have a feeling that these are going to be a centerpiece type model for the army when they're unveiled. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and wild speculation as to what this is going to be down in the comments below. Next up, and from another stratagem, it sounds like some squads are going to be getting in-squad medics. This one's called Combat Surgery. The flavour text reading, "It is a tragic waste to let warriors die on the battlefield when there is a chance that they can be revived to join the fight." You use it in your command phase, and you select one unit that has the Votann Medic keyword from your army that's below starting strength. If it's not within engagement range of enemy units, then return D3 models to the unit. I have a feeling that for 1 command point for D3 models it's not going to be used on massive elite infantry, so maybe this might even be something that the standard Hearthkin warriors can pick up, maybe as a sergeant or gear upgrade of some sort. The way that the stratagem's worded means that it's going to be within the squad itself, as otherwise it would be a unit within 6 inches of it or something if it were a character, and I have a feeling that including the medic in the unit will probably give you some other sort of defensive buff as well. My first guess might be something like ignores the first failed save, like the Helix Adepts from the Space Marine Infiltrators, but I suppose it could be something else, like a bit more of a standard 6+ Feel No Pain. In any case, it looks like the Votann have their own version of Apothecaries now, locked within the unit as opposed to running around on their own. Moving on, and another really quite cool detail is that we have the names of 5 different leagues from the Leagues of Votann. Apparently the keyword on the units will be League, and this is their equivalent of different chapters or regiments. The ones that we know of are the Urani Surta Regulates, the Great Arthurian League, the Trans-Hyperion Alliance, the Cronus Hegemony, and the Ymir Conglomerate. In general, they all seem to be the name of a place and then basically another word for alliance. At least from the other fluff of the faction, it sounds like they're mainly going to be operating out of the Galactic Core. It'll be interesting to see where these are placed on the galactic map. On top of that, it sounds like the Great Arthurian League are the ones that are pictured in all the photos, the ones with the white armour, grey and black trim, and some red cog icons, so it seems that the Votann that we've had previewed so far hail from there. Finally, we'll finish up with 7 new stratagems, 2 more interesting generic ones that they can use in general, and then 5 league-specific ones for each of the ones that we just talked about. First up, for 2 CP we have Grimwrought Barrier. This one's a command phase one where you select one friendly unit within 9 inches of a Grimnir. As we mentioned last time, the Grimnir is a top level HQ Psyker, and he can cast psychic powers from the Skeenwrought discipline. It seems that apparently, in addition to that, he can also basically turn off enemy psychic to some extent when he wants to. For 2 command points, he basically ends any ongoing psychic effects on a friendly unit, and then they can't be affected by maledictions the next turn after that. It does mean that the unit could still get blown away with mass mortal wound spam from Witchfires if you're playing Thousand Suns or Grey Knights perhaps, but it does seem like it could be quite a nice tool to have in the toolbox. If your opponents hit you with a really nasty debuff, like maybe Fights Last or something, then just casually cancelling it for 2 CP seems okay. For 1 CP we've got Personal Grudge. This one again keys off that judgment token system that we don't know too much about, but it basically means that one character can use your grudge option very well against one unit. It's allowed to nominate an enemy unit in the command phase, and until the end of the game when that character attacks that enemy unit, it does so as if it had 3 judgment tokens on it. I'm strongly suspecting that that means that you get some sort of passive buff on it, maybe some sort of rerolls to hit or wound, or +1 to hit and wound maybe. How powerful it is remains to be seen. Finally, let's take a look at these league-specific stratagems then. First up, for those Irani Surta regulars, for 1 command point we have Waste Not Your Last Breath. This one fights on death for a character that was slain that hasn't fought already. A pretty powerful ability for 1 command point when it goes off. That's usually going to add up to a whole stack of damage if you've got quite a tooled up combat guy. It does mean that they're unlikely to have that as an option in their generic stratagem pool though. For 1 command point we have Appraising Glare. This is the one for the Great Arthurian League, and the keyword I found a little bit hard to make out, but basically when one given league unit uses the Grim Efficiency ability, the selected enemy unit gets +1 judgment token on it. I guess that's another interesting ability hinted at. Some datasheet will have Grim Efficiency. Obviously little clue as to what that's going to do at the moment though. Next up, there's one for the Trans-Hyperion Alliance called Cult of Veneration. This one gives you a pop-up 5+ save against mortal wounds. Not too bad to have in current 40k, with most armies having a mechanic that gets them, but not exactly something you'd use in every single matchup I guess. Then for 1 CP we have Bloody Expectations. This is a Cronus Hegemony one which makes you fight harder, exploding 6s to hit in melee for any unit, whether it's core or not. A nice direct damage boost there. I wonder if the rest of their thing might be something to do with charging headlong into the enemy. Finally, and interestingly for 1 CP, we have the Ymir Conglomerate one. This one is called Pulse Beam Discharge, and you basically select a single beam weapon on a single model, and each time that beam weapon scores a hit, then it's 1 mortal wound each time in addition to normal damage. This one really could be good or terrible depending on what beam weapons do. If they've got 3 shots, then I guess that's probably some fairly reliable extra damage. If they've got 2, then not. Again, it's another allusion to beam weapons, a new class of weapons that we didn't know about previously. Really is kind of hard to weigh up most of these. I'm sure they're all going to be useful in some way or another, but without knowing the abilities that they key off and what else will be going in those specific leagues, certainly impossible to draw any conclusions at the moment. Anyway though, plenty of interesting stuff. Really quite cool that we're going to be getting some sort of land fortress coming, and let me know what you think about squad medics and league titles as well. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. We'll certainly keep the regular Votann stuff coming. I'm sure we'll be getting plenty of teasers and maybe more leaks from Games Workshop. I'll cover everything that's interesting on the channel, and certainly review the Codex in full once it's out. Finally, if you have been enjoying the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention the Auspex Tactics Patreon page, which you can find down in the video description. Making all the videos for the channel does take a fair amount of time and effort, particularly keeping them coming quite this regularly, and if you are enjoying quite a bit, any support is enormously appreciated. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some really big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.